So now that we have Adobe XD installed and that we have opened our ointment design that I have shared with you through a Google Drive link, it's time for us to start exploring the user interface for this tool. The first and probably the most important section is, of course, the canvas. Now, the canvas will actually be able to have as many elements as you want. It's really called the infinite canvas according to Adobe. So if you were to, we'll explore this in just a second, but go to the top right corner and change the zoom level to something about 5 or even 2, and you will be able to see how there is a very large canvas and our designs are really just taking a small part of this canvas at the moment. So make sure that you know that this canvas will allow you to add many different kinds of elements, not just artboards for the screens of your devices, but really more elements like images and these circles that I have added to bear in mind the type of colors that we're going to be using throughout this application, or even this huge element that is going to be the icon for this application, and you will actually be able to create so many more things in here. Now to the left, you will be able to see the toolbar, from where you can find the tools to create some rectangles, to create some ellipses, some lines, some more elaborate lines with a pen, a text, create new artboards for different screen sizes or for different purposes, as well as control the zoom level for these elements. At the bottom, you will find two very important buttons. One is going to be the symbols button. And right now we don't have any symbol in here, but we're going to be adding some symbols as we move forward. And you will also find the layers button, where, if you have guessed it, you will be able to see the layers for many different elements that you will be able to keep selecting, and you will see the elements inside of all of these artboards and even group them together. The other important section is the properties pane. Now I'm going to zoom in into some element, it doesn't matter which one, and I'm going to start selecting some of these elements, and you will be able to see how in the properties pane we can modify the properties for all of these elements. For example, if you were to select one text, you will be able to change the font, or if you select a rectangle, you will be able to change its fill or something like that. Now we're going to be covering all of these elements on greater detail as we move forward. Just familiarize yourself with the fact that the properties for all of the elements that you can select are going to be in the properties pane to the right, and that you have very powerful tools to start modifying how these elements are going to be looking. Another important section is this design and prototype section. Now notice that as I navigate from one to the other, both the properties and the toolbar disappear, but I am now able to see some more detail. The design tab is of course the one where we are going to be creating our design, but in the prototype type, we'll actually be able to establish certain relationships between all of these artboards, all of these elements, so we are able to create a prototype of our application without coding anything, and people will actually be able to test this prototype by clicking and swiping on a screen. In fact, to the top right corner, and that is the last section of this window that we're going to be covering in this lecture, we can actually find a device preview button which will allow us to preview this design on a device that has the Adobe XD app installed. We are also able to preview this design right into our Mac computer or Windows computer, and notice how if I click on something, I am able to navigate throughout this design because I have just created some prototype, and I am able to navigate through these elements by clicking on one or other element. So now you are familiarizing yourself with this tool, where you can find the tools that you will be using. To the left, you will see the properties to the right. To the bottom left corner, you will see some very important buttons. You can design, you can prototype, you can share, you can preview. and we're going to be covering most of these elements in the coming lectures.